from a miniature service horse guiding a lady across the street, to an emotional support guinea pig in a dorm room, to a therapy dog visiting college students. These animals are all helping people, but what are the differences? In fact, there are many differences between service animals, therapy animals, and emotional support animals. I've gathered my research from the Americans with Disability Act, U.S. Department of Housing and Development, Pet Partners, Journal of Stress and Health, Journal of the American Academy of Psychiatry and the Law, The Guardian, and the Department of Transportation. This topic is important because there is no doubt you'll meet one of these animals, and it's good to know what they are. Basically, service animals are trained to help one person and are allowed to go anywhere with their owner. Therapy animals are trained to help other people and must be invited to places. Emotional support animals help one person, are not trained, and are only allowed special housing accommodations. Now, I know that sounds like a lot. Let's start by looking at service animals. Like I said, service animals are trained to help one person and are allowed to go anywhere with their owner. According to the Americans with Disability Act, or the ADA, service animals are defined as dogs that are individually trained to do work or to perform tasks for people with disabilities. These tasks include guiding the blind, helping with mobility, and medical alerting, to name just a few. And these tasks must be trained, and they must be beneficial to the owner's disability. The ADA recognizes 2 species of service animals. Of course, you have dogs, but they also recognize miniature horses if they're properly trained. And according to the ADA and the U.S. Department of Housing and Development, service animals are allowed in public places such as stores and restaurants, and they're also given special permissions for housing. Now, what about therapy animals? Therapy animals are trained to help other people, and they must be invited to places. According to Pet Partners, one of the largest therapy animal organizations nationwide, therapy animals provide physical, psychological, and emotional benefits to those they interact with, typically in a facility setting such as healthcare, assisted living, and schools. They help others as opposed to their owner. They do this in a variety of ways. Therapy animals are commonly used to help people with emotionally, such as in college de-stressing events like the one we have going on downstairs. In 2018, in the internationally researched journal Stress and Health, Natalie Eade and her psychology colleagues from Ryerson University did a study on the effect of pet therapy. They noted a huge decrease in heart rate, self-reported anxiety, and self-reported stress. And therapy animals typically need some sort of training to get used to different environments, such as hospitals and noisy classrooms, and people such as rambunctious toddlers and the fragile elderly. The most popular therapy animals are dogs, but Pet Partners also registers cats, horses, rabbits, guinea pigs, rats, pigs, llamas, and alpacas, and birds. And these animals must be invited, and they're not allowed any special permissions to stores or restaurants unless they've been invited to one. Now, lastly, let's look at emotional support animals. Emotional support animals help one person, are not trained, and are only allowed special housing accommodations. According to the Journal of American Academy of Psychiatry and the Law, emotional support animals, or ESAs, are defined as any species of animal that a healthcare provider has certified can mitigate a person's psychological disability with companionship rather than by any specifically trained task. I like to call them prescribed pets. As opposed to therapy animals, emotional support animals help their owner, and they're commonly prescribed by doctors for disabled individuals with anxiety and depression. In 2019, the news company The Guardian went out and interviewed people with ESAs. One of the interviewees, Bill Steele, deals with major depression, and he has 3 emotional support goats which help him. And ESAs can be any species of animal, and they do not need any specific training because they're not doing anything other than being themselves. For public access, ESAs do not have any special permissions except when it comes to housing. According to the U.S. Department of Housing and Development, just like with service animals, disabled people with ESAs are allowed where there is a no pets policy, and they have a pet fee waived. Prior to 2021, ESAs were allowed on planes, but with the increased amount of fraudulent ESAs and safety issues, the Department of Transportation was pressured to put out a new rule that now considers ESAs as pets with no special treatment. With all that, let's look back at our chart. Service animals are trained to help one person, are allowed to go anywhere with their owner. Therapy animals are trained to help others and must be invited to places. And emotional support animals help one person, are not trained, and are only allowed special housing accommodations. Now that you know the differences, I hope that next time you see a support animal, that you can now appreciate what they are and what they do, because they're improving lives. And that in itself is pretty amazing. Thank you.